Welcome to Homeward. I'm Jim Burns. So happy you joined us today. And we're going to be talking about a subject that is so near and dear to my heart. In fact, it's the life we're living right now. And I think it's near and dear to a lot of our listeners and our YouTube watchers, if you would. We're talking today about helping grandparents have a great impact on their grandchildren. And also, there's a little parentheses, and I'm saying with some very important advice for parents as well. So if you're the parent and there's some grandparents in your life, obviously there are, in most anyway, then you want to hear this too. Someone once said, it takes a village to raise a child. And you know what? I sort of believe that. Well, I think a major part of the village is the grandparents. And we probably don't talk enough about this, but so many times I'll meet with somebody and they'll just say, yeah, it was this praying grandma. It was the praying grandpa. You know, they set me on their lap and they read the Bible to me. Things like that. Just today, I was with our grandson, Huxley. He's 5. He's staying for the weekend. So if I reported after the weekend, I'll be exhausted. But I was staying there and I had my little devotions already out. And the last time we did this, he said, "Where's Huxley?" And I showed him in my journal his name because I pray for him. And so today I showed him. I hadn't finished it, so I showed him yesterday and the day before. And I said, "There's Huxley. There's Huxley. There's Bodie. There's James. There's Charlotte. Those are my 4 grandkids." And I want him to be raised knowing that I am praying for them, that I love them. In fact, even in the garage today, he said, "You talk about Jesus," and Papa Mike, who I love and adore, his other grandpa, he talks about building cabinets. He's a cabinet maker. And I can't wait to tell Mike, because he's much more talented than I am at doing this stuff. And it's not that he doesn't talk about Jesus, but yeah, I'm talking to Huxley all the time about Jesus. So anyway, Kathy and I are fully engaged and intentional grandparents, and we're living the life. In fact, tomorrow, we've got Huxley, Bodie, 2-year-old, 5-year-old, and then we've got James and Charlotte. We're taking them to San Diego Safari Park. We're going to be exhausted for this thing. And I'll guarantee you this, it's going to cost us more money than we thought. We're going to have great memories, and they're going to eat most any food they want. And some of that food, maybe most of it, will have sugar in it. So I'm just saying that right now. But, that's an important thing. And as I mentioned, on Sunday evening, when we bring the 2 grandkids back, we'll be so blessed. And yet it will also be exhausting. So there you go. I can't think of anything Kathy and I are doing right now in our life that's more important than being intentional legacy-building grandparents. And so that's why I'm talking today with a very good friend of mine and someone I believe in so much. His name is Larry Fowler. And as I said, we're talking about the issue of helping grandparents have a great impact on their grandchildren. And again, that's, like I said, that's what we're doing. We're trying to be fully engaged. 10 years ago, the Legacy Coalition was built. And here's what I believe about the Legacy Coalition. You hear me on this podcast. A lot of you listen all the time. I don't say this, but I think the trajectory of helping grandparents in the church has changed because of this Legacy Coalition. So we're going to talk about that. He started that some time ago. 30 million grandparents, 30 million grandparents just in the United States alone. Now, again, we have 98 countries, so you start adding that up, and that's a lot of grandparents. Larry has written a book called Overcoming Grandparenting Barriers. There it is if you're looking on the YouTube. And I like it because it's a thin book. I've read this book twice. I read it, and then just recently when I was prepping for my book called When Your Adult Child Strays, Trading Heartache for Hope, I read it again. And it's so, so good. Now, again, you're hearing a longer opening, but in 2012, Larry was the recipient of the Legacy Award from the International Network of Children's Ministry. His background was children's ministry, and it seems kind of natural that he moved after that to focus on grandparenting. He and his wife, Diane, actually moved from the Midwest to Riverside, California, so he's a Californian here, and to be with his son and daughter and then help their legacy with their grandkids. So it's a pretty cool story. He launched Legacy Coalition 10 years ago, and they even have a great summit that we're going to talk about that's happening this month. And we're excited about what's going on with that summit, and we'll get to hear from him on that. Larry, welcome.
Good to be with you, Jim.
That may be my longest opening ever. But I'm excited about what you do. I'm excited to have you here in person. And I just appreciate the influence that you have on all of us who are grandparents.
Well, I know you share our heart.
Yeah.
You just said it. You said this is the most important thing you do. Me too.
No, it honestly is. One day I remember James and Charlotte, Kathy has them Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I say Kathy because I show up early and kind of get to see them after school. But they were crazy that day, and things were a mess, and the house was a mess, and James broke something, and Charlotte wrote on the wall or something like that. They're 10 and 8 now. And I said, we're just living our dream. This is what we wanted.
Yeah.
And we kind of laughed about it. Well, not this, but this is what we wanted. So it is true. At a time, kind of go along with that, at a time when so many grandparents are moving away, they're, retiring, and they're saying, we're going to come and see you, once a year or twice a year. You guys moved, 2,000 plus miles from your home to be with your son and daughter-in-law and grandkids. How has that worked out for you?
It works out great. In fact, this morning I took a 14-year-old to school. We live a mile away from our son and daughter-in-law. Yes, we moved here in 2012 to be with them when that first grandson was just a year old. Well, now he's grown up a lot. 14. Now there's 3 of them.
Yeah.
But they come to our house every morning, Jim, at 7, and then Mom and Dad go to work, and we take them to school and we pick them up. And what that means for me is I get 15 minutes every day.
Isn't that amazing?
Every weekday with a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's amazing. When you think about the influence and impact, the 15 minutes plus 15 minutes plus 15 minutes, and, sometimes, at least with our kids, they've wanted to have a burping contest and they didn't want to necessarily talk about Jesus. But I do realize that it's the time we get. Now, a lot of parents don't have that because some are long-distance grandparenting. You have a book with the Legacy Coalition that my friend and your friend, Wayne Rice, wrote on long-distance grandparenting. But for those of us who have done this, it is well worth it. So key. Now, you've got 3 sentences on your website, and I love these 3 sentences. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to ask you to speak to the statement.
Okay.
The sentences say, grandparents are incredibly important to their grandkids. They are uniquely positioned to spiritually influence their grandkids, and they have a biblical mandate to do so. Talk about that.
Well, your involvement over the years in youth ministry and family ministry is a lot about discipleship.
Yeah.
And we encourage mature believers, right, to be disciplers. Right. So what are some of the character qualities you want to see in a discipler? You want them to know the disciple.
Yeah.
You want them to love the disciple. You want to have them to have some maturity themselves as they pass on faith. And so when you make up a list of the qualities of a discipler, guess what?
Yeah.
That describes a lot of Christian grandparents.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially in regard to their relationship with their grandkids.
And I think some are missing out. I'm not telling everybody they have to move like you did or do what we do. But what I am saying, like, for example, our mutual friend Wayne, Marcy, his wife, has a weekly appointment with her granddaughter who's like 18 now or whatever. Yeah. And they talk on the phone.
Yes.
What a great thing. So there's you have to be intentional. You use the word intentional grandparenting a lot. What do you mean by the term intentional?
Well, maybe the opposite of intentional is hopeful.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't think of those as opposite, but we hope that our grandkids are going to follow God. We hope they're going to do this thing or that thing in their lives. But intentional means that we go beyond hoping to where we actually orchestrate our life in such a way that we're trying to contribute to that. We're trying to help.
Yeah. And we can't force it upon our grandkids if our adult children don't want us to, and other things. There's other things, and we'll talk about some of that. But what a privilege it is. I think I might have mentioned to you on the previous podcast that I've read through the children's Bible with our James 3 times. I didn't do that with my kids. I mean, we did. Yeah. We prayed. We had family devotions. We did things that a lot of families don't do. But I'm much more intentional about it with James, Charlotte, now Huxley, and Bodie.
Oh, me too. Yeah. I'm much more intentional as a grandfather than I was as a father.
And we can kind of get away with it. They go, oh, that's just Papa J, whatever. What do the kids call you?
Just Grandpa.
Grandpa.
Except I have one. One of my grandkids calls me Papa.
Isn't that
and why, as a granddaughter, why she chose to be different than the rest, I don't know. Yeah. But I'm Papa to one, Grandpa to the rest.
That is so funny. It's funny, Hux, I call him Hux. Sometimes Huxley is his name. And he said, I'm going to call you Pops. This was last night,
Oh,
so it
yeah.
didn't stick today. I was back to Papa J, but we'll see. So
Well,
wrote a
I
book-
I didn't know that you could have cool names.
Yeah,
Back when we became grandparents, I didn't know you
no,
could do that.
exactly. I didn't. My grandpa died when I was 9 months old, so I didn't get to know him. And the other grandpa, I didn't know. I knew him from afar, but he was just grandpa, And yet, he smoked a pipe, and I actually, when I think about him, I think about the smell, the atmosphere, and things like that. Well, but he wasn't driving me to school 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
So now there's those kinds of things that they can feel, not probably pipe smoking or, some of the other stuff, the words that came out of that grandpa's mouth. But it was neat. I wanted to know him. I wanted to have a relationship with him. And so what's interesting is even our grandkids want that relationship. Again, you wrote this book, Overcoming Grandparenting Barriers, how to navigate painful problems with grace and truth. And we did a podcast on it. You can look it up, by the way, if you're watching this or listening to it, and you can look up that particular one. This is the second time to have Larry back in. But in that book, one of the things you deal with is, there's just barriers. There's problems sometimes that, as you've been involved in grandparenting ministry, now you're beginning to see those. And then you wrote an excellent book. I read it the second time as I was prepping for a book I have coming out. Talk about the barriers. What are some of those barriers that, grandparents have when it comes to, influencing their kids?
Well, we put them in three categories, but they're all under the word distance. Distance is the umbrella word.
Yeah.
But there's different kinds of distance. There's geographical distance, and that by itself is enough of a barrier.
Totally it is.
We now have one of our grandchildren living in England.
Yeah.
And so the distance is a barrier. We're not going to see him in person very often. Then there are relational barriers.
Right.
And those come like, when your son and daughter-in-law get a divorce, and she gets custody of the kids.
Right.
She's mad at him, and she takes it out on you too.
Yeah. You hear
that's
that every day.
That's a relational barrier. Those are really, really difficult to navigate. And then there are the spiritual barriers when the adult kids either just are cool towards faith, or they walk away from their faith, or never had it. They're not believers. So there are many, many grandparents that struggle, especially with the last two in combination.
Yeah. One of the things I hear all the time, because I'm out speaking on doing life with your adult children, which involves grandparenting, naturally. And somebody will say, I'm heartbroken because my kids have deconstructed in their faith, so they don't believe, and they don't want us to bring them to church. They don't want us to talk about Jesus to the grandkids. What do you say to that? You must hear that all the time, just like I do.
Yeah. It's amazing how often what we want is we want them to do something.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing that we can do, because we can't change them. God can, but we can't.
Yeah.
We may want to, but we can't. So we have to look at ourselves and say, so what can we change about us?
Yeah.
Could we lean into the relationship more?
Right.
So that we don't lose that. We won't have influence in their lives if we don't have a relationship with them. And so can we lean into the relationship, even if it doesn't involve the spiritual component?
Yeah. I'm really glad you said that. I was talking with a woman who disagreed with you and me on that, because I agree with you. And she said, well, I just took them to church and I pray with them and I read them Bible stories. And I said, how'd that work out for you? And she goes, well, we're estranged now and they've cut me out of any relationship.
Exactly.
So as time, I always hear about the kid who's 18, the grandchild is 18, and now they come to, grandma and grandpa's. And tell me about this church thing that you're doing, or tell me about your faith or whatever. So we're in it for the long haul. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So I appreciate your comment. Listen, I want you to speak for a moment to the thousands of parents who are listening, who are not grandparents. These are parents, and they're not grandparents, but they want to have a better alignment with, the grandparents when it comes to spiritual life or just period. They want to have a better alignment in terms of, they realize the importance. And I think a lot of our parents, we mainly have parents more than grandparents, but a lot of our parents, they want that, but they really don't know how to build this team. What advice would you give to the parents of, the people who have, the grandparents with their children?
Well, I'm sure you found this too. It's a conversation that needs to take place, but rarely have they thought about having the conversation.
Yeah, it's not intentional. Right.
Yeah, it starts with, okay, let's have a talk about this. Maybe the talk starts by saying, I'm learning what the biblical vision is for children following God.
So good.
And what I've learned is that there is to be a team. Yeah. And the team is mom and dad and grandpa and grandma and Nana and Papa.
Right.
That's in an ideal situation. And, of course, in many families, not all of those are interested or not all are believers or whatever. Right. Yeah. But that all comes from the last phrase of Deuteronomy 4:9, Jim, that's been so significant for Diane and I. Right. And it says this, teach your children and your children's children. Right. So what if everybody obeyed that?
Oh, it'd be amazing.
That would mean 6 people, 6 adults. Right. You were talking about a village. Right. That's a small village, 6 adults all committed to that child's spiritual development.
No, exactly. I love that. Yeah.
And then, of course, we know the parents have to lead. That's from the book of Ephesians. That it's the parents' job to lead. Yeah. But get the grandparents on board, give them a vision, and have a talk with them.
Yeah. No, I have a funny story about that. Our daughter, Christy, called me. They were living in Texas for a year, and she goes, Dad, James, who must have been about 5, James, who's now 10, James is asking questions about his body and things like that. She goes, didn't you write a book for children on sexuality? And I go, yeah. She goes, is it the white book? I said, yeah. She goes, you need to send it to me. So I sent it to her, and I just put praying for you. And it's 5 years old. God made your body. God made boys. God made girls. Simple. Yeah. So we get there about 2 weeks later to help them do whatever, and we were finding every reason to get to Dallas, Texas, where she was. And she greets me. It's so good to see you, Dad. So good to see you, Mom. She goes, hey, Steve, that's her husband. Hey, where's that book that Dad sent? He's got to go read it to James. And I went, what? She goes, well, I haven't read it. That's your job. That was a compliment. But at the same time, it was like, wait, no, you have to take the lead, Christy, not just me. So here I am sitting in the other room reading this book to James, who, and again, you're 5. You're not even embarrassed about that kind of stuff. But she was like, you're on my talking to kids about sex team. Listen, I mentioned when we were in the opening about Legacy Coalition. And I say to people, I probably say it every week, 2 words. They'll ask me about grandparenting. 2 words, Legacy Coalition. Sometimes I'll say legacycoalition.com. So I'm big on what you do. And I think it's really important that I want our listeners, if they don't know about Legacy Coalition, and even if they're the parents and not the grandparents, I want them to know about it because they can tell their parents, of their own parents, the adult children, talking to their parents. So I want you to talk about if they go to Legacy Coalition, because I'm blown away. I just was on your website this last week, and I'm looking at the free stuff, and I'm looking at the webinars and the podcast, and I know you have a summit coming up, an amazing amount of really great resources. So give us kind of a vision of what happens when somebody comes to Legacy Coalition. What can they see? How can they get involved?
To the website?
Not just the website, but what you do. But I was just saying on the website, it's all there. So that's why they go to Legacy Coalition. So let's
start with the website then. So, but let me give a background a little bit. 10 years ago, Jim, when we started our ministry, we wanted to develop some resources for grandparents. So that very first year, Wayne helped us a whole lot. We developed 4. Yeah, great. We had a book, a little video series, and a couple books. And guess what? With 4 resources, we were the largest source in the world on Christian grandparenting. Right. Oh, nobody else had 4.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, now if you go to our website, you'll find blogs, you'll find videos. There are hundreds of blogs now. Yeah. And there are over 250 videos. Amazing. And all of those are on about every topic that you can think of that applies to intentional Christian grandparenting, because that's our focus. Okay. So people can go there, they can watch, and they can listen. Our ministry also is really focused on trying to get grandparenting into the local church. Yes. We believe in the local church. We believe the church needs to be the primary tool of discipleship. Right. So we try to equip churches. So there's a whole section on how a church can start a grandparenting ministry.
Right. No, I love that. There's also, a Monday webinar.
Yes, called Grand Monday Nights.
And that, I mean, the people that you get are the best people in the world on this kind of stuff, and it's amazing. And then actually that's logged into your website where they can go back and they go,
Yes.
oh my goodness, I want to see what so-and-so has to say about,
Yeah.
having fun with my grandkids or whatever it might be. Yeah. And it's really well done. It's well produced.
It's a Zoom meeting.
Yeah,
so Zoom is what it is.
Yeah.
So sometimes there are little glitches because on the other end the person's Wi-Fi isn't quite right, but the content's all there, and it is superb content.
Right,
yes.
right.
Yeah.
I laughed when you said that because I did a Zoom meeting for a pretty good-sized group in Brazil a week and a half ago, and here I'm in the studio, so that we have great, Wi-Fi and all that. They didn't have such great Wi-Fi, so the whole time the guy was talking, I never saw his mouth move. He just kind of froze. But I didn't want to interrupt him and say, do you realize I can't see this? So I asked him at the end, and he said, oh no, we had all kinds of technical problems. But he goes, people don't even hardly care. They're so hungry for this.
Well, when they know what it is.
Right,
yes.
right. And that's not going to happen with you guys.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to, at the end, I want to talk about this summit because I think it's one of the greatest things. This will be my third summit that I'm going to be at. I'll be at your one here in March. And I want you to talk about that as well. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Awesome. Great conversation today. Larry Fowler is with us. And we're talking about helping grandparents have a great impact on their grandchildren with some very important advice for parents as well. So, don't go away if you're a parent. LegacyCoalition.com. All the information on Larry, all the information on Legacy Coalition is found in our podcast notes as well. So you don't have to go to the podcast notes as you're driving, if you're driving and listening. But take a look. It's well worth it, and it's just an amazing resource. He only did half the stuff of some of the great things they're doing, the podcasts that they have, really, truly, their blogs are great. And then resources. We just bought a little, discussion starter. Right before Christmas, we bought a discussion starter for all of the different holidays. And I went through, I was already talking about some of the discussion things like for later in the year because James and Charlotte wanted to keep talking about it. And sometimes their answers are goofy. I'm not saying they're not, but very, very good. So we'll be right back. Don't go away.
We're here tonight at the Lion Air Museum in Orange County. And the reason I'm so excited about this venue, besides the fact that it's beautiful, it represents why we're here tonight. Just like this place has the Great Plains, but that airport has the latest. We've got 40 years of tried and true biblical foundational equipment and resources to help families, pointing us towards the future. So super excited about Homeward, what God's going to do. So stay tuned as we honor 40 years, but look forward to the future of what's coming.
Moving forward, while the future of Homeward is incredible, we are looking to provide help and hope in every chapter of your family story, knowing that every family has a family story and it's a little bit different. And so we want to be there to provide help and hope in those challenging times and in those exciting times for the next generation and the generation after that.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Burns. So happy you joined us. We're having a great conversation today about intentional legacy building, grandparenting. And like I said, this is where I'm at right now. In fact, people will write to me and say, hey, I saw on your Facebook, I love when you post about your grandkids. My people here at Homeward say, you need to post something besides just pictures of your grandkids. So anyway, I love that aspect of life right now. And one of the surprises for me, Larry, has been when I wrote the book, Doing Life with Your Adult Children, I didn't realize that parents were like 48, 50. This is, if you can Google me on this, but they, now have adult children, but a lot of them even have grandkids. So a lady in Austin this weekend said to me, I'm 45 years old. I'm still obviously working. I'm trying to be a good intentional grandparent because I mentioned it. And she said, but I'm also dealing with my mom who's sick, and we're thinking, do we move my mom in? We don't really have the money to put her into assisted care, and she's going through this whole thing. And I realized I'm looking at a 45-year-old woman who has 2 grandkids. So there's really different phases of grandparenting, because some are over 55, or they're 65, or they're 70, and they're retired, and they have more time.
Yes.
A lot of us in our mind think of that grandparent, but in fact, a new generation of grandparents are juggling like crazy.
Yeah, well, I have a couple thoughts on that, but let's start with the U.S. Census numbers tell us. In 2010, the U.S. Census said the average age a person becomes a grandparent in the U.S. is 47.
Amazing.
So it's now gone up. It's closer to 50 because kids are having their
babies later.
Their babies a little bit.
And they're getting married later. Yeah.
But still, the average age a person becomes a grandparent is 50. The average age of a grandparent is 60 or 61. Again, those are U.S. Census numbers.
That's your demographic. You're saying the average age.
So this will blow everybody's mind. What are the ages of a boomer right now?
Yeah.
62 to 80.
Yeah.
But the average age of a grandparent is 60. You know what that means?
Wow.
There are more grandparents that are Gen Xers than there are that are boomers.
That's a mic drop for me. I'm in shock, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we have this mental image of a grandparent. Diane and I became grandparents at age 43.
Yeah.
We were married at 20, our daughter at 19.
Yeah.
So we were grandparents at 43. And at that time, I had in my mind, the mental image that many do of a grandma,
right.
dressed old-fashioned, hair up in a bun,
right.
and all that. And my wife did not look anything like that at all.
Right. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. That's interesting. We have loved being able to say that we're grandparents, but I know people who are almost embarrassed when they're in their 40s and say, I'm a grandparent.
So they come up with the cute names like you do.
Yeah.
Your grandpa.
Papa J.
See?
Yeah.
See, I'm just grandpa.
Yeah.
So I'm the old-fashioned name. You're the cool name.
Right. I like it. Every so often, James and Charlotte will say, Grandpa? And I'm like, hey.
But you know what? Grandmas especially do that.
Yeah.
They love the relationship. They love the little child, but they do not want to be called grandma because of that mental image. So they come up with a cute name.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. I think you finally get to an age where I'm at now where we don't care.
We don't care.
But we're boasting about it. But I do understand that. So I love the church. And, I became a Christian when I was 16. I wasn't raised in the church. And I think one of the reasons I love the church so much is because of the incredible ministry the church has had to me. And, I don't think the church is perfect. The church is the bride of Christ. You said it. It's how we disciple people. It's the avenue we do that. Yes. And everything we do at Homeward comes around trying to help the church. However, there are churches today, and, you and I have talked a little bit about this on the side, but I don't understand why they don't just jump into grandparenting ministry. It's the grandparents have time, the grandparents have desire, the grandparents have needs, and they don't do it. You actually offer people, you mentioned it on right before our break, you offer people ways to, a starter kit for doing stuff like this. And it doesn't have to be every week. It doesn't have to be, a huge thing, but you start small and you kind of build. But why is the church slow at this?
I wish I knew, because if there was, I'd fix it real quick.
Yeah.
But I have some ideas.
Yeah.
So, of course, one is, I don't think people see it in Scripture. Mm-hmm. The word grandparent doesn't appear in Scripture, and so we tend to kind of look past all the passages.
Of generation to generation, we look past those passages because that's all throughout.
Yeah, and even the one like Deuteronomy 4:9, that's clearly a command to grandparents, but the word grandparent isn't there. Grandchildren is.
Yeah.
But so
children's children. Yeah.
Children's children.
Sure.
Yeah, depending on the translation.
Right.
So that's part of it. I think that many times church leaders don't know what we just talked about the
Yeah.
demographics of a grandparent. So when they hear grandparent, they think it's synonymous with senior adults. And when you do that, no.
Right.
No. Most all senior adults are grandparents.
Right.
But not all grandparents are senior adults.
Right. It's
In fact, the majority of them are not.
Very interesting.
I don't want to be a part of the senior adult ministry at my church.
Yeah.
I'm too young for that, and
Right.
I'm 73.
Yeah.
So,
Right. No, I get it.
yeah.
Very interesting. Well, where I want to push our people is I want them to challenge their family ministry people or their pastor or somebody to even take a look at Legacy Coalition, because truly I think the church is missing out. And I every day think about this kind of stuff, but you live this every day, and I would be frustrated because I just can't understand it's such a great deal.
Well,
why aren't we helping them? And I even sensed a little bit of tension with you because you're the nicest guy in the world, but also you're like, church, why are you not doing this? Come on.
Well, exactly. And I think many churches rely on what happens at the church for
Yeah.
the discipleship of children, except they know that parents should do it.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of a partnership between church and parents. I
Yeah.
want to propose that grandparents need to be a part of that partnership as well.
No, right. And make it a part. Like when you said the six, we did that with our kids. Our parents' backgrounds weren't necessarily Christian. My mom and dad became Christians at the end of their life. But my mom then died early, and my dad married a wonderful Christian woman. And she said to us, every day before I get up, my job is to pray for your kids and pray for my other grandkids, because she had another family too. My mom and dad had been married 53 years, and then he married my mom's best friend. It's a cool story. But even that, what she did was so meaningful to us. She was a part of our six, and influenced the kids in other ways too. But we need that.
Well, Jim, I don't know if we've talked about this before or not, but one of the last things that I did in my ministry careers in children's ministry was to talk with children's pastors in mega churches and ask them, I don't care about how many kids you have. I want to know how often they come.
Yeah, it's good.
And when we surveyed mega church after mega church after mega church, I will say small churches are much better than this.
Yeah.
But the average church-going child in a mega church goes 1.3 times a month.
Right. Wow.
That is, so extrapolate that over a year. They're in church 15 hours a year.
Yeah.
How can the church possibly
Right.
be a real effective
Right.
discipleship tool when the kids aren't there?
Right.
This is not about what the churches do. This is on how often they come.
Sure.
But I don't know if we're going to change that. It seems to me like one thing we would want to do is bring in some reinforcements.
No, exactly.
And grandparents are great reinforcements.
Yeah. And, we've been in ministry long enough. You've seen this too, that, when I first started in youth ministry, we didn't come alongside. I wrote a book called Partnering with Parents in Youth Ministry, and it was as if, well, that's a new novel idea. And so we're in the church is doing better with trying to equip parents, but I would still say that most parents aren't really fully engaged with this kind of thing either, for 100 reasons for another conversation. But today, one of the things all those parents can do is bring in their own parents to help them with this, and the parents have time and they have the energy and they want to do something. Well, that's amazing. Listen, grandparenting is wonderful, but it can also be painful. So I'm kind of going back and forth. So I was thinking again about your book in terms of the barriers. It can be painful. Today I'm hearing about estrangement. I'm hearing about grandchildren who are deconstructing, children who are deconstructing. And so there's a lot of pain in this too. I have an email in my office right next door from a woman who says, I can't sleep at night because my 25-year-old and my 26-year-old boys aren't walking with God. My 26-year-old has a little baby, and the baby has not been to church and hasn't been, dedicated and hasn't, just none of that kind of stuff. And she goes, I can't even sleep at night. I'm in such pain. Speak to the person who's saying, this is all well and good how, Larry and Diane and Jim and Kathy are sure engaged, but, that's not happening in my life. There's deep pain. Mm-hmm. What do you say to them? How can you give them some hope in the midst of this?
Well, first to recognize, there is incredible pain. a relationship that has the potential for the greatest joy
Right.
also has potential for the greatest pain,
Yeah,
right?
that makes sense.
Right?
That's
So what greater joy can grandkids bring
Yeah.
than grandkids? Not much. And things in life would bring more joy than that.
Right.
But they also bring the greatest pain. So, yeah, we recognize that that's the case. But you can't stop praying, of course.
Right.
We want to say that first, even though everybody knows that you can pray. But we can probably all up our prayer game a little bit more. And then you said it earlier, we want to play for the long game.
Yeah.
That is so important.
Right.
So you want to fix them now. You want them to come back to the Lord now. Even in estrangement, Jim, research tells us that most estrangements last 4.5 years.
Yeah.
They do resolve, not nearly as fast as we want.
Right.
But even in estrangements, they come back. So we want to play the long game and prepare for that time when they will will come back to a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's good. And we have to, you're right. We have to, I'd say even in this new book I have coming out on when your adult child strays, we have to stay in the messy middle. With estrangement, we want to be safe. So sometimes we have to swallow our pride and not say, you're doing it all wrong and I'm right, or even preach at them saying, what you believe is wrong, what I believe is right. Sometimes we need to be safe so that we can be in that relationship. So after that 4.5 years, some earlier, some not.
Well, let me give you an illustration. This is from a conversation I had with Focus on the Family.
Yeah.
We were talking about it off the air.
Yeah, right.
In that same that meeting, I mentioned I had a grandma come to me at one of our seminars, and she said, Larry, this sounds good, but my 3 kids have all converted to Buddhism. Mm-hmm. Just what you're talking about. She was in a lot of pain, and she says, what do I do? And I don't think I gave her a very good answer. So here I am, I'm in the meeting with Focus on the Family, and 2 of the people in the room were retired Christian family counselors. Yeah. And one of them came up to me afterwards, and he said, Larry, you mentioned the woman whose kids all converted to Buddhism. He said, you know what I would have told her? And I was all ears, because here's the pro, right? And I didn't know what to say. He said, I would have told her, start learning about Buddha.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
I was strange, but here's what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's saying, try to understand.
Right.
Try to understand what, and we have a family member that is really struggling with Christianity.
Right.
And I'm wanting to discipline myself.
Yeah.
For the same thing, to ask questions so that I understand, not preach, not blast them with the truth. Right. But rather maintain the relationship and try to understand. So, to me, that's showing grace.
No, that's so good. Hey, you've got a summit coming up, and our time is getting close here. But you've got a summit coming up. It's coming up in just a few weeks, and it's in Dallas, Texas. I know people who yesterday, 2 people here from California who bought tickets to go. Pretty exciting. But I want you to talk about the summit. The people who are involved in the summit, the communicators you have are second to none. Worldwide, they're amazing,
including one named Jim Burns.
Well, I honestly, it's a privilege for me to come and be a part of it. So, 2,000 people, hopefully in Dallas. One of your people told me it could be up to 100,000 at the what you call the simulcast later in the fall.
Well, we'd really praise the Lord if that was the case. It's been growing every year. It is called the Legacy Grandparenting Summit, and it is the only national conference on Christian grandparenting. For us, it's the event that puts grandparenting on the map. Yeah, it's the thing that not only equips people, but it gets the attention of pastors. It gets the attention of ministry leaders all across America and other countries as well. Yeah. And so it's absolutely a strategic thing for us. 2 days of main session talks plus breakouts, plus a resource center. Our resource center is the largest we've ever had.
Awesome.
80 tables full of folks that are
resources for grandparents.
Resources for grandparents. Yeah,
that's a lot more than your 4 resources when you started.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, people can still sign up.
They can. So that's the live site, and it's March the 19th through the 21st. So it's coming up, but yes, there's still time to get there and be a part of that. Yeah. Then we simulcast it in the fall.
Yeah.
We take all the main stage talks and we put them in a package, and then we make that package available to churches all across North America and outside if they want it.
Yeah.
And then the summit, and if you can't make it to Dallas, March 19th to 21st, it can actually come to your church.
Yeah, what a great thing.
And you can share it with your
I love
church.
that.
And we have lots and lots of churches that do that and have done it in the past.
Yeah, I love that. I just love that. Well, thank you for being with us. Thank you for what you're doing. There were some major things that I just learned from you in terms of even thinking about the Gen Z. Never entered my mind that today's grandparents are Gen Z. Some of them
Gen X.
Gen X. What did I say?
Yeah.
Gen Z. That would be a problem.
That would be a problem. That would be a problem.
But anyway, so good. And again, just I get chills thinking about this. So I want to invite you to come to the summit if you can. It's March 19th through 21st. It's an incredible event. There's a vibe. This will be my third one, and there's just a vibe there that's great. You meet other people who are, trying their best to be the kind of grandparents. And they are great people. I mean, there's some great people who kind of wander into that thing. So I want to encourage you to come, or if not, check out the simulcast in the fall. A lot of people here on the Homeward podcast, you're from other countries, and obviously you're not going to pop on a plane and get there. So you get to still experience this with some of these amazing, wonderful speakers. So I'm going to be speaking there, and they all have a theme, and I'm going to be speaking on eternal partnership, and I'm going to talk about how do parents and grandparents come alongside and align themselves to help their kids do spiritual growth. I'm not done with the talk yet, but I'm loving where it's going. That's kind of the speaker thing in me. And then also I get to do a workshop, and this is just one workshop, but I'm doing a workshop on empty nest, and I was looking at it yesterday. It's on Find Joy in the Empty Nest, Reinvent the Relationship with Your Adult Children, Rekindle Romance in Your Empty Nest, and How to Be the Grooviest Grandparent in Town. And all that's going to happen in 40 minutes. So we'll see how that goes. But the reason I say that is because now you multiply that by a lot of other people. They have phenomenal workshops. So I hope you come out. It's a great program. And again, then the summit's in the fall. Hey, before you go, I just want to tell you one story. About 2 years ago, I was speaking at Cannon Beach Conference Center, a family conference, and I get a call, and it's my daughter Christy's phone. So I say, hey, Christy, how's it going? And it was my grandson, James, who is now 10, but he was 8. And he kind of awkward on the phone, 8-year-olds are. And he said, Papa Jay, I wanted to tell you that tonight at Vacation Bible School, I made Jesus my forever friend. I asked him into my heart. Well, at that point, my eyes did what my eyes are doing right now. They welled up with tears. He didn't see it. He was on the phone. And I said, James, that's the greatest decision you could make. And you know what, buddy? I am so proud of you. And he said, and Papa Jay, I need $150 for the Uganda project. I said, what's that? And he goes, well, that's what we do at Vacation Bible School, so we need your money. I said, you got it, buddy. Easiest $150 he ever raised. And then I said, have you told Grandma? And he goes, no, but I'm calling her now. And he hung up. He didn't say goodbye. There was no more spiritual input. And so I just sat there, and I honestly wept, knowing that because I didn't come from a Christian family, that our church, our prayer had been this. This was our prayer. This was our dream. And it's not just about him becoming a Christian, but he was going through the process. So awesome. About 15 minutes later, I call Kathy, and I go, hey, so did you get a call? And she goes, yes. And she goes, our prayer and our dream. Isn't that amazing? She used the same words. And then she said, oh, and by the way, I'm going to give him $150 for that Uganda project. I said, well, I already said that too, so I think we're in it for $300. This is a good fundraiser, kid. But you know what? That was so special to us, and such that it was a part of what we've been talking about. Didn't see that coming. I mean, we didn't have to encourage our daughter Christy and her husband Steve to have them at Vacation Bible School because they had been. But what we find is that when we can come alongside, then we get to bear that fruit. Now, some of you don't have as cool of a story as I have. I get it, but at the same time, that is something that you can do, and you know what? You can get help. So if you need some help, if this conversation is kind of got you thinking about things, and go to homeward.com. Better yet, go straight to legacycoalition.com. Get some information on how to be the grooviest grandparent in town. And until next time, I'm Jim Burns. Thanks for listening.